Hey, how's it going, fellas? A couple of days ago, a friend of mine sent me this photo. Feel free to pause, but essentially it's a system with a 4th gen i7, 8 gigs of DDR3, and a 500 gigabytes of SSD, and followed by a question for 2.5 million IDR. You think it's good? It it took me a while to reply to the message, and for different kinds of reasons. Even more so that I never quite expected that in 2026, the first question regarding PC that I receive is, should I get this 11-year-old system? Then I replied, I'm sorry, but I genuinely not sure how to answer to that. But in my humble opinion, I don't recommend it. Unless you maybe want to experiment and do some trying things out with Linux and not use it as your main daily driver, it's probably fine. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on old systems. I grew up with them. I built my first PC in 2016 with a 3rd gen i5. Then I played Dark Souls for years on an iGPU. And then in 2018 upgraded to a GTX 1050 and still use that same system until 2024. Even now, my PC is still very average, but some part of myself fear that I might be a little out of touch. And that's also exactly where the question about the i7 PC kind of hit me the most. Let me just give you a bit of a context. In late 2024, I built myself a full AMD system, and it was pretty nice. I loved it. Fast forward a year later, I was faced with a situation where I need to sell that same PC. And not gonna lie, to this very second, I still regretted that decision. But I had no choice. What's in the past are now in the past. And the RAMpocalypse happened. Well, panic. I rushed to find a good deal to get myself a PC before prices skyrocketed even more and left me unable to afford anything. And I made another stupid decision. I found two deals that I thought was the best at the time. The first one was a system with an i5 13400F, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and an RTX 4060. It's an okay config. The second one has a Ryzen 7 5800X, holy crap, 16 gigs of RAM, and an RTX 5060 16 gigabyte. Albeit for about $100 or so more expensive, which in all fairness I could afford at that time. And regardless of how you see it, the Ryzen system clearly takes the cake here, but my stupid ass was blinded because the i5 comes with a Seasonic Prime GX power supply. My god. A 360mm AIO, a better case, yes, a better case of all things. And it has 32 gigs of RAM. Oh, plus a 27-inch Odyssey G3 and a Logitech mouse and keyboard. So overall, it's still a very good deal. And going by that description, I picked that sucker up instead of the 5800X and a fucking 5060 Ti 16 gigabytes. But to be fair, the i5 system is totally capable and it's an okay system. But knowing it could have been much better, it annoys me. It was probably the stupidest decision I've made in this past 5 years, and now I'm fully aware of that and still feel ashamed of myself. And to make matters worse, the system reeks of cigarettes. So bad that I bought a full liter of isopropyl alcohol and deep cleaned the whole thing, and it still hasn't fully disappeared, although very faint unless I really stuck my nose to the exhaust fans. But it's still there. And I don't smoke, so just imagine what I felt. And so, what does it have to do with the i7 topic, you might ask? Well, truth is, I've been desperately trying to resell this PC and get another one. Getting rid of it, pretty much. Completely ungrateful for what I've got. And then I got that message, and it was such a hard punch in the gut. While I'm whining about my computer, completely disregarding how capable it already is, just because it kind of smells a little bit, and it could have been something else entirely. Well, some good folks out there are still looking at a decade-old hardware and think to themselves, this looks pretty lovely. Not because it is, but because it's all they can afford. That one question, that one sentence slapped me so hard in the face and screams, "You ungrateful fuck!" You know, it told me, like, to not constantly kept looking up for the more grander things, like looking back for things I could have had, things that could have been, you know, a bunch of empty what ifs, and, you know, to be simply grateful for everything that is, you know. And looking back at it, it might have been for the best. The state of this PC, when I got it, I think it's been waiting for me, for, you know, someone who actually taking a good care of it and not torture it with the stuff it's been through. I don't know, I just like to think of it that way. And it taught me a very important lessons, you know, most notably about gratitude. Such a valuable and expensive lesson. You know, again, the past is in the past. Yesterday is a history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. By Master Oogway, by the way. Yeah, anyway, take a good care of your stuff, fellas. Good care of others, and good care of yourself. If not you, who else? The world's a mess right now. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.